Hey everyone, Kaitlin here. Welcome back to another episode of Baldwin Breakdowns, where we're looking at big concepts, big ideas, and lots of big feelings in 10 minutes or less. And this week, the topic or concept is emotional abuse. So, a lot of, I think, social media accounts that focus on mental health have talked a lot about trauma and what that looks like. And so, trauma, sometimes the definition is in the form of abuse is kept to things like physical and sexual abuse, but emotional abuse is extremely common, especially in the context of abusive family styles or domestically abusive relationships. So, in today's video, I'm going to talk through what emotional abuse might look like. So, largely what I'm focusing on or pulling this from is the power and control wheel, which was developed by, I think, a university in Minnesota. And so this kind of goes through a range of different ways that power and control can be exerted in different relationships. Within this, emotional abuse is just one segment of the wheel of the pie here. So I'm going to focus more specifically on that, but then I am going to talk about how these other parts of the wheel, these other sections and ways of controlling people can also kind of be melded into the umbrella term of emotional abuse. So emotional abuse, some of the most common examples or things that this would look like would be putting you down, making you feel very bad about yourself, humiliating you, playing mind games, or making you feel guilty. Making you feel guilty, I think, is one that I don't want to say happens most commonly, but is one that can kind of create the most internalized shame for people. And so, specifically, that last one of making you feel guilty might look like, if I express my upset to someone, then they might make me feel guilty in return for feeling upset. So how dare you be upset with me and you're making me feel so bad that you feel upset with me. So it kind of flips it back onto the initial person. And really what that does in general is it means that the initial person that felt whatever way or set whatever boundary doesn't feel like they have the safety to do so. So these are some of the most common ways that emotional abuse can show up. And again, kind of within that particular section of the wheel. And so these others that I'm going to go through in a second, again, aren't in that image, they aren't referenced as emotional abuse, but I think they do all fall within the same umbrella because it's abuse and power and control used to gain control over a person. And again, this can be from family members, from a partner, from even a friend, and it all kind of serves to again exert control over the victim, the person that's receiving this mistreatment. So the other parts of this wheel that I won't go into too many examples around are using isolation. So this might be limiting who you talk to, who you see, who you spend time with, using coercion and threats. So this can be specific threats about, if you do this, I'm going to do this. So not very different from boundaries, but setting ultimatums, or again, coercing you to do things that you don't want to do. Using intimidation. So this is kind of a weird one where it's not physical abuse because it might not include the person physically harming you or physically touching you, but they might hit or touch areas around you. So they might kind of punch into a wall, or they might throw things, or they might use their stature and body size to kind of move towards you in a very aggressive way, all with the intent of intimidating you. Denying, minimizing, and blaming, this category would probably often be regarded as gaslighting. So when someone is like making light of the abuse or saying that something didn't happen. So if I go to someone and I say that they have been isolating me, they've been, trying to control who I talk to and who I see, and they're saying, no, that's crazy, I've never done that, you're making this up completely, that falls within the realm of denying, minimizing, and blaming. Or that can be like making light of the abuse, and so pretending that it's not that big of a deal, you're overreacting, things like that. And from my experience, both personally and professionally, that is one where it again creates that really intense level of shame. Other things, depending on the context, and this might be more in a spousal relationship, would be things like using children. So, if you do have children with a spouse, then they might try to control how often you see them, or kind of use them as ways to, again, coerce or threaten you to do certain things. Using privilege, so this might mean, depending on the power dynamics, this might mean that they are telling you what to do and kind of treating you like a servant, or maybe getting you to, take care of them in certain ways or do certain things on your own, in an unequal way. So there isn't an equal distribution or a fair distribution of, work or whatever it is. And then economic abuse. So this might be, again, more commonly in a spousal relationship, but this one can happen in families as well, where they might limit your access to funds. Maybe they don't let you have your own bank account, or they kind of control spending, things like that. So these are kind of all within this realm of power and control. And personally, I believe that they would fall within the umbrella of emotional abuse. And so this alone kind of shows like how dynamic and complex it can be. And also knowing the fact that a lot of these are not going to be seen, obviously. They may not be easy to spot or identify when you are outside of a relationship or when you're actually inside of a relationship. And I think a point that's important to make in talking about emotional abuse is that a lot of people don't understand why people would stay in relationships where there is this emotional abuse, where there are, these things present in the relationship. And the challenging part is that a lot of these mechanisms, especially things like using isolation, using threats, using intimidation, all of these pieces make it that much harder to leave a relationship like that, because you're isolated and disconnected from people, because you feel afraid, maybe not for your physical safety, but for your safety and security as a whole. So I wanted to make a quick point, and just shout out this show on Netflix called Made. It's a limited series. There's only one season of it, and I don't imagine that they'll make any more, but it does a really great job at demonstrating what emotional abuse looks like. I would put a very clear trigger warning out there, especially for people that have experienced domestic abuse or emotional or physical abuse. But it does do a really good job in showing what that looks like, specifically in a spousal relationship. And so just quickly, here are some resources that I'm going to have up on the screen, and also in the caption of this video, I will include other resources, including websites, hotlines, and other services that might be available to you within Ontario or within Canada. But most of the time, if you search either domestic abuse or abuse services in my area, then ideally, depending on where you live, there would be some services available to you. So that's emotional abuse, and I will catch you guys on the next video of Baldwin breakdowns. Oh, there's gonna be a break. I'm not gonna post any more videos in December, so this will be the last video for a while. I'll post again in the second week of January. So have a good one. Bye.